I am Jennifer Trotu. I am the Director of Collections and Interpretation for the Gamble House here in Pasadena. I grew up in Pasadena, and I'm sort of a homegrown architecture enthusiast. So, the fact that I went into this professionally, I think has a lot to do with what I, absorbed about Greene and Greene and just loved about Greene and Greene even as a child. I feel like they were really looking at Southern California itself and really kind of communing with what the feeling that they got from this place and really building on that in order to create this new and native architecture, as it's often referred to. I always like to call a Greene and Greene staircase really the signature of the house. That's really the first thing you see when you walk into an entrance hall as kind of the central hub of the house. There's that Port-Orford cedar paneling all around you and kind of gives you that feeling of enclosure and embrace of the house. And then when you walk through a front door like that, that front door is really a work of art that you have to pass through in order to enter the house. So I think these are really important components of what the house is presenting to you before you've really had a chance to kind of explore it and get to the more private areas like the living room where you're going to actually sit down and enjoy the room. But just standing in that entrance hall is an important statement of what the house is about, what its materials are, what its details are, how it's going to feel to walk to the other spaces, and how that's going to impact your experience of the house. I was looking at a 1912 article from the Craftsman magazine that featured this house, and the author in the caption had remarked, "Oh, look how beautifully the furniture is integrated with the architecture." And I don't think the person who wrote that caption even knew that Greene and Greene had also designed the furniture, because this is a little bit earlier. This is kind of at the first few years that they're really getting into that idea of designing everything in the house. So you can see how they're really starting to go beyond just thinking of an interior as a box that's filled with stuff. I mean, even if you look at a particular Greene and Greene light fixture, they had to work out what the wood details were going to be, what the design of the glass was going to be, work with the artisans who made both of those things to make it all come together. So it's not just that all those artworks kind of come together to create the interior, but also that sort of team of artisans that they had to execute their ideas. So this fireplace, all the wood on this wall is all reconstructed, but one thing that is original to the house is this fireplace front. And you can see that kind of characteristic detail that you see in other Greene and Greene houses too, where they've cut these four corners in a different color tile and then cut off the corners of the main field tile in order to have a little inset of a different color and pattern. The unfortunate thing about this house is that Dr. Bolton died before the family even had a chance to move in. When he died, his wife ended up renting out the house to Belle Barlow Bush. She lived here from 1907 until 1917. We don't know a lot about her except that she was clearly dedicated to this house and really wanted to see it through, and actually ended up commissioning some of the furniture from Greene and Greene and following through on the furniture commissions that had been initiated by the Boltons. Even though she was renting the house, she really took an interest in it and really wanted to kind of see it to completion, which I think is really a fantastic thing to think of for somebody who's just renting the house. The Culbertson sisters lived in this house from 1917 when they moved in until 1950, so the family had it for about 33 years. It ended up becoming the property of Ambassador College, which was right across the street. What they valued was the space, and they used this particular house apparently as a book depository, and it really took a beating during that time. So between 1968 and 1978, once it was really slated for demolition, a new owner bought it and worked with the architect Tim Anderson to really restore a lot of what had been lost here. That was almost 50 years ago now. So the house has really had kind of a second life as this sort of rescued Greene and Greene house that really has gone on to, come back up to its potential.